As a creative entrepreneur, one of my biggest challenges is balancing what I want to create versus what I need to. And for years, I put my own creativity on the back burner in order to prioritize business. That's why last week I decided to break this pattern and create something just for me. And what I learned is that sometimes personal projects are more important than the ones that pay the bills. So today I want to talk about what can go wrong when you sideline your creativity and focus your energy on views, followers, or money. I'll also share one of the big mistakes that I see a lot of creatives and entrepreneurs make that ultimately leads to burnout and self-doubt. And if you stick around to the end, I'll also share a simple exercise that you can do today that will help set you up for success long term. Let's do it. Just being with you. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Growth Journal. Every week I jump on this channel and I share my personal growth journey as a creative entrepreneur. I try to share the wins, the challenges, and most importantly, the lessons that I'm learning every week with hopes of helping you become the best version of yourself. So this week we're talking about why it is important to create for yourself. I kind of alluded to that at the beginning of this video. But I think it's super, super important. I think there's a lot of things that can happen if you sideline your creativity, if you start to put off your creative instincts, especially when you're running a business. It's easy to fall into the trap of just creating what needs to be created in order to keep the business running. But I think it's also really, really important to work on those passion projects, those projects that just bring you pure joy and fulfillment. So I want to talk more about that. And if you have watched a few of these videos, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm excited to dive into this topic because I think it's a big one. So I'm going to kick this off by addressing what can go wrong when you put your own creative projects, your own creative expression on the back burner. From my own perspective, there's a few different things that I've experienced. The first one being the loss of the creative spark, and loss of fulfillment. I enjoy so much just being able to express myself and work on things that just mean a lot to me. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to build a business with my partner that allows us to work with a lot of our dream clients and in the space that we want to occupy. But it's still very different working on something for a client versus working on something for yourself. There's expectations for you to perform, and there's just a lot more stress that comes with that. Whereas when you create something just for yourself, a lot of that stress kind of gets taken off, and you're just kind of working out of pure joy. So I find if I start to put off my passion projects too long, then I ultimately start to lose the joy out of creating a little bit. So that's why I think it's good to start to sprinkle in some of those personal projects every now and then. I think it's easy to lose track of why you are creating in the first place when you are only doing it to seek a result. So I think that alone can be very dangerous for our own personal well-being and fulfillment. And then the other thing is, I find that if we put off our own creative expression, authentic expression, the content starts to become a little bit more like formulaic. So we're trying to adhere to trends, we're trying to get views, we're trying to get followers. And I think a lot of the times I have found that when I try to do that, when I'm trying to kind of like achieve those metrics, then a lot of the content lacks soul, it lacks authenticity. That I think also can be really detrimental if you start to lose that, So those are a few of like the personal and creative effects that it can have, but also I find that professionally it can also take a toll, because I find that the business-focused content also suffers because your creative well has run dry. So what I mean by that is that it's really hard to pour your all into the business, into all the different business projects as well, when you're feeling creatively burnt out or you're feeling a little bit creatively lost. So that's why I think that balance is really, really important. Okay, and now one of the things that I want to dive a little bit deeper into as well is why it's dangerous to create only for external validation. So again, creating for things like views, creating for things like followers, creating for things like approval, I think can be very, very dangerous if it's the only thing or the majority of what you try to focus on. And I'm gonna share a few things that can lead to. So I find that a metrics only approach can lead to constant disappointment because you're trying to please the algorithm, and obviously the algorithm's always changing, and it just leads to this like constant cycle of stress and disappointment when you're like, I'm trying to do this for views, but I can't get them, so now I'm upset, you know? And I think it just really starts to take a toll on you mentally, and it can be, again, a dangerous place to be. Okay, and then another one is self-doubt becomes a lot more prominent because we start to tie our worth to the performance of our content. And I think if we're always living in that mindset, again, it can really start to take a toll on us. And then finally, because it starts to take a toll on us, it ultimately leads to burnout, which is just not a fun feeling, you know, just feeling like you have nothing left to give, you can't express yourself properly, and not only does that affect you personally, creatively, but also affects you business-wise as well. So those are 3 things that I have experienced running my own business and trying to balance my creativity with what needs to be done for the business as well. And I just wanted to speak on that a little bit more, that I think it really is just important to balance that, you know, find time for your own creative projects, because it'll help to ultimately reduce the effects that you feel. It's just good. It's good for the soul, you know, creating passion projects is good for the soul. So yeah, I just wanted to dive into that a little bit deeper, because those are all things that I've experienced as a result of creating too much for views, followers, money. I just think it's really, really important to have that balance and to also make time for your own creative expression. And on that note, I want to give you guys something to think about before you start a project or begin working on a piece of content. One of the things that I try to ask myself a lot now is, if this project or this piece of content does not reach anybody, what would still make it successful? So I try to think about things like, okay, if it doesn't get a lot of views, what skills did I develop in the process? Did I enjoy the process? Did I get fulfillment out of creating this piece of content or working on this project? Was it a portfolio building piece? If it doesn't reach anybody, can I still leverage that as a portfolio piece and pitch it to future companies or share it with potential clients? That's what I try to think about a lot. And I will share a little bit more about the film that I actually just recently uploaded last week. So for those of you that haven't seen it, the short film was called The Art of Being Alone, and it was a project that I created just for myself, and I wanted it to be this story about the importance of self-love and doing the things that you enjoy. Again, this wasn't for a client, it wasn't for anybody else, it was just for me, and it was honestly, it reminded me of like how important it is to make time for those projects. But the reason that I created that project in the first place, aside from just wanting to create something whole for myself, was that I also wanted to just get better at color grading, and I wanted to use this project as a way of challenging myself to try different techniques and different styles. And I also wanted to challenge myself to create something in a short period of time. So I only gave myself about 3 days to 4 days to put this project together, and I wanted to see if I could conceptualize, shoot, and edit this thing in 3 days. And it ended up turning out really good. So if you want to check it out, you can click somewhere on this video and check that one out. Really, really proud of it. So yeah, this was a project that I went into with no expectations aside from just wanting to create something that I'm proud of. But yeah, I really just think it comes down to defining what success means to you before you start working on a project or before you start creating a piece of content. Like, what do you want to get out of that? And how can you set something that's like a manageable expectation? I think that's really, really important. So on the topic of defining success, I want to share what I'm calling is like the success blueprint. So I think there are 5 key areas that we need to consider when defining what success means to us. It's very easy to be like, okay, money equals success. If I'm making $100,000, $200,000, that means I'm successful. I strongly disagree, because I think there's a lot of other areas that need to be considered, and it also depends on you, you know, like it depends on what you want to get out of what you're doing, why you're building your business, what fulfillment means to you. So And I alluded to this at the beginning. I think a lot of creatives don't do this. Like, a lot of creatives fall into that trap of being like, I need the followers or I need the money to be successful. When a lot of people actually skip this step, they don't actually take the time to define what success means to them across these different areas. So I'm gonna share those with you right now. The first one I wanna start with is health and wellness, because I believe that you are nothing without good health. I don't care if you're pulling in $1 million a year in revenue. If you can't sleep, if you can't prioritize your fitness, if you're eating like shit, then yeah, I think something needs to change. And I think it's just really, really important to define that. What kind of health metrics do you want to maintain? What does a healthy and balanced lifestyle look like for you? I think that's an important question to ask. So that's my first one, my first pillar. The second one is time. So how do you want to structure your days? What are the things you want to make time for? The reason I started a business in the first place is because I felt like my time wasn't my own. So yeah, this is one of the core things for me, is just being able to control my time and to make sure that what I'm doing allows me to spend time how I want to. So yeah, even just defining that, like, how do you want to spend your time? Okay, and then the next one is relationships. So who do you want to spend your time with? It could be people that are currently in your life, but it could also be people that you want to meet. It could be fellow creatives, other entrepreneurs, new friends. I think that's really important to define too. Like, these are the people that are really, really important to me. If I'm able to manage my business and still spend time with these people, then I would consider that pretty damn successful. Number 4 is creativity. So kind of like what we're talking about in this video, but what types of projects give you the most joy and fulfillment? What types of projects do you want to work on? I think that's very important to define too. Yeah, that is number 4. And then the last one is financial, because obviously money is important. How much money do you need to live sustainably? If I'm good making X amount of dollars and I can still live comfortably doing the things that I want to do, how much is that? A lot of people throw out numbers online. It's like, you need to make 6 figures, you need to make $1 million, but like, not everybody needs that much for the lifestyle that they live. For example, Colleen and I don't spend that much money. Like, a lot of the times we're camping and we're hiking, which costs nothing a lot of the time. So we don't need as much money as people that are living luxurious lifestyles. So I think it's important to, yeah, just define kind of like the lifestyle you want to live and how much money is required to sustain that lifestyle. So those are the 5 areas that I think are really, really important when it comes to defining success. But yeah, right now, Colleen and I are actually working on a new offer that is going to help creatives and entrepreneurs not only define success on their own terms, but also build a successful, profitable, and authentic personal brand. So if that's something that you're potentially interested in, let me know in the comments below, or you can click the link below to join the email newsletter and stay up to date with all that stuff. Or you can follow me on socials, and I'll be dropping a ton of detail on there as well. So yeah, just wanted to share that before we continue. And to end it, like I do with every video in this weekly series, I want to give you something to ponder. So I want to give you a question to think about going forward. And my question for this week, as it relates to the rest of this video, is, what would you create if no one was watching? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you ever want to chat more about this stuff, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram, or we can kind of chat in the comments. But yeah, I love having conversations like this. I hope you got a ton of value out of this video, and I look forward to catching you in the next one. Peace.